What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to an extremely late starting Friday show. Joker just got scared, ran out of the room. I think he figured we weren't doing a show today, but here we are. Took a while to get through today. Woke up this morning, slept funky last night, and I just got one of those pinch in the lower back kind of days going on. Not a common thing for me, fortunately, but it's one of those ones that'll be gone by tomorrow. But it's just made everything so slow and so annoying. And I'm not looking forward to sitting in this chair and typing for the next 16 hours writing the football article tonight. But that's the plan. Anyway, late start to today. We do not have a lot of time to waste and talk about me. We're here to talk about this baseball slate. Going to try and knock it out in about an hour. So buckle up. This one's going to be for all the people who like to complain about the length of this show and about how I ramble. We've got 12 games to get through. And again, going to try and knock it out in an hour. So let's dive in. Welcome to everybody who's here. Say hi in the chat when you get a chance. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's rock. People will catch up afterward. A couple weather considerations. The San Diego at Chicago White Sox game has a little bit of rain in the area. Ross got it yellow-green. I would say keep an eye on it, but it seems okay. Maybe a delay prior to the game, but then play. More concerning looking game in the Cleveland at Minnesota game. There is a lot of rain in the area. He's got it hard yellow. Could be a long delay. Could be, eventual postponement. Seems like he's leaning more toward delay. And then the Milwaukee at St. Louis game, just some rain in the area, but he seems fine with it green and yellow. We've got the Yankees in Baltimore to take on the Orioles. Solid totals on both sides of that one. It's Will Warren against Trevor Rogers. Rogers been mostly spectacular this season, keeping runs off the board. Yankees are another animal, of course. Will Warren, short starts. A lot of upside from time to time. Playable, but only loosely so on a deep slate. Andrew Alvarez is on the mound for the Nationals, taking on the New York Mets. They're pulling a 5+ implied total, one of the top spots on the board. Brendan Sproat at a fair price is on the mound for the Mets, keeping the Nats down at a 3.5 implied total. Looks real interesting. Garrett Crochet, top of the board as far as the pitching goes. Red Sox taking on the Rays, just a 3.09 implied total for the Rays. Tells you most of what you need to know there. Sox coming in at just a 3.49, though. They're taking on Drew Rasmussen, kind of an interesting pitcher. You're just mostly getting 5 innings and just a couple of strikeouts out of Rasmussen these days, though. Mouse just froze. Not a great start. But Rasmussen playable as maybe an SP2 consideration. The Blue Jays and the Royals, couple of low strikeout teams. It's Max Scherzer. He's been a little bit up and down, giving up a handful of runs in most of his starts lately. The strikeouts are coming and going. The depth kind of comes and goes, and not a great matchup. Michael Lorenzen going back the other way. Definitely not a great spot for him. Going down the board, we do have Dylan Cease going for the Pods against the White Sox, looking pretty terrific up near the top of the board. 4.64 implied total for his team, backing him up against Davis Martin. The Padres bats definitely on the board. Jansen Jung, very interesting on the DraftKings slate. He is offset by price. He's like 5,500 over there, so super interesting there. He's going up against the returning Tyler Mahle, who's not going to be in there for more than probably 65 pitches, I would say. Made 3 rehab outings, but limited through only 52 pitches in his most recent rehab, so I would expect no more than a handful of innings out of Tyler Mahle. That said, 3.67 implied total, 3.68 on the Marlins side. They don't exactly look all that interesting. Two teams that do look interesting, total 6.29 implied total for the Angels at Coors Field, 5.84 on the other side for the Rockies. It's Mitch Farris, it's Bradley Blaylock, couple of sacrificial lambs on the mound there. We're just considering bats in Coors Field tonight. The Guardians and the Twins, Parker Messick, an interesting young lefty, a couple of solid 6-inning starts in his last 2, just 4 strikeouts in both against the Rays and the White Sox, but a playable starter and definitely an interesting enough spot. The Twins sub 4 implied total by a decent chunk, and the Guardians also sub 4. They're going up against a more proven starter in Pablo Lopez. We have Brian Wu on the mound for the Mariners, taking on a tough Astros team, but definitely an interesting spot for Wu, one of the leading pitchers on the slate. You can see all of those sub 4 totals in a row there in this stretch of games. It's kind of interesting. Hunter Brown going back the other way in that one. Interesting in a tough matchup against the Mariners. So kind of a back and forth there. You could play either the Mariners or the Astros in just kind of a under-owned good team against a good pitcher kind of a spot, but I lean pitching in both of those. That is 4 cornersy kind of a spot though, because of that under ownership. The Brewers and the Cardinals. It's Jacob Mizorowski on the mound for the Brewers. He did go 7 against the Pirates 2 starts back. and then pulled back to just 5 innings. He gave up 4 earned runs in his most recent outing. I do feel like they're getting him stretched back out a little bit, though, so it wouldn't stun me if all goes to plan that he goes 6 here against the Cards. That most recent game, though, was 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, a walk, 2 home runs allowed to this Cardinals team his last time out, so something to be aware of there. Not that that's at all predictive. Sonny Gray on the mound, another pitcher just facing a really good Brewers team, is a little challenging, and that impacts the depth of the slate, but it is a strong, deep slate. The Phillies going with the combination of Taijuan Walker and Walker Buehler, as EMAC is calling it, Taijuan Walker Buehler. They're taking on Ryan Nelson, who has been pretty terrific through the entire second half, outside of 1 or 2 starts. Strong second half for him, second year in a row. That said, 4.65 implied total for that Phillies lineup and a 4.95 implied total. We're probably leaning a little toward bats out in the desert. Maybe we consider Ryan Nelson. And then we round things out with another Giants and Dodgers series. It is the last home start in Clay Kershaw's career. I would expect a pretty decent one. It didn't go so well his last start, but he's made a few good outings the last few times out. Went 5 2/3 of 2-run ball against the Orioles at Baltimore 2 starts ago. I would expect they give him 6 as long as things aren't completely melting down here. And Robbie Ray on the mound, going back the other way, has been completely vulnerable. It's been bad Robbie Ray for a solid stretch of starts in a row here. I think nothing changes about that. We can target some Dodgers bats at 4.85 implied. All right. How we doing? How you guys doing out there? Hopefully your week's gone well. Friday. Hopefully you're either done with work by now or at least wrapping things up at work. My week is just getting rolling, really. Like I said, a lot of hours ahead tonight, so hopefully you guys check out that Groups and Optimizers article. The frame of it is up tonight. That was all last night, up all night project. Getting all the different players, the positions, the groups all laid out, all the different statistical information in there for each team. And now it's to screenshot the different stats and drop in the notes or write the notes and drop them in for each team, each game. We've got 13 games on the main slate this Sunday, 26 teams to write about. So that's going to take a while. Each team takes about 20 minutes, half hour. So it is a large effort. That'll be all tonight. So make sure that you're checking that out tomorrow and Sunday morning. I update it throughout with any questionables. I try and throw those in. Anybody who comes out, I try and update and get out of there. Projections, rankings, all updated through the weekend for the main slate on Sunday. Baseball projections are going to be live through the weekend as usual. So make sure you're checking that out. Going to be hard at work over the next, 48 to 50 whatever hours. 60 hours. Anyway. Top of your pitching board, Garrett Crochet, 11,010.5, well worth it. Tremendous option up top. Major source of strikeouts. They give him tons of depth. I remain worried about that elbow, but it hasn't been a problem this year, so we'll see where it goes in the future. But for tonight, love the option. It's going to be very popular. Anybody not named Garrett Crochet is a much more reasonable proposition as far as ownership, and we do have a lot to work with. Love Dylan Cease in that second spot. Shares upside with Crochet up the top of the board. Same thing with Brian Wu, although Wu is a little bit impacted by a still good, even without Jordan Alvarez again, Houston lineup. Sonny Gray at a fairly offset price, just 9,087 against a very tough opponent. It has to be interesting. There is veteran upside there. Hunter Brown against a gettable enough from time to time with some strikeout in that lineup, still Mariners team, but that is obviously a tremendous baseball team. 10,495. Brown is reasonably priced, I think, on both sides, but could have come in a little bit cheaper considering the opponent. Do like Pablo at 95, 9,000. We found some success against the Guardians lately. Those are reasonable prices for a talented pitcher. Still not fully engaged as far as the depth goes, so maybe a little bit lighter of a ceiling as compared to the 5 guys above him, but definitely in play to similar levels considering the price offset. Robbie Ray, you just need to find form. There's obviously upside, does have good strikeout stuff. That's a very good Dodgers opponent with some Mookie Betts rounding into form over the last month and change. They've just gotten better, so not a great spot for Robbie Ray. Warren at 79.69, kind of a wild card, especially on FanDuel at that offset price. He does project out well. It's just one of those spots where, considering what they do with innings with him a lot of the time and just where he gets a little shaky on pitch count, it is one of the projections where it probably comes in more as a median, but also close to many times the ceiling type of a number. Just a couple few points of ceiling beyond that most of the time. So he is correctly priced against that field. I think, well, correctly is the wrong word because look where Ryan Nelson, Max Scherzer are. But I don't know how much he competes with the very top of the board, I guess is what I'm getting at. Nelson, tremendous tough opponent. Scherzer, up and down, erratic, and really challenging opponent. I don't like the Scherzer spot. 77 is a fair price on DraftKings. 86 on FanDuel doesn't feel like one. 83, 7,000 for Kershaw in this spot, I do think is at least kind of interesting, especially the DK price. Very much so. 88, 8,000. If I can get 6 out of Miz for those prices, especially the DraftKings price, kind of interested. Drew Rasmussen at 84.75 kind of works against Boston, but again, you're probably just getting 5, and he's a lower end strikeout pitcher than some of the top end guys on the board, so there's just kind of mid options. Trevor Rogers just keeps getting priced up and landing in this kind of territory on the board and then outperforming it. It's just who he is. He keeps on drawing tough opponents as well. The Yankees are squashing him down a little bit. 10-5, 89 from there to face the Yankees with a lefty doesn't really feel great. Brendan Sproat is interesting, especially that 78 on DraftKings. That really stands out. 92 on FanDuel, I think, is kind of correct against a low-end Washington team. So DraftKings, I think you take advantage. They're probably going to get pretty popular for that price, be one of your more popular SP2s. And you do have a lot of options to work with that are a little bit above him on the board. Messick falls into that category as well, but a little bit more expensive than Jansen Jung. 71 on FanDuel. I'm not sure how necessary he is, but he's interesting. 55 on DraftKings. He is very interesting. Should be a popular SP2 option for the value. Molly, you're not getting enough, and everybody on that board below Molly is either pitching at Coors Field or in a bad matchup or terrible or all three. Or I guess in the case of these two guys, or excuse me, this guy and that guy, splitting a start basically. The like button, subscribe to the channel. We're going to get through this in an awful hurry compared to our usual pace. Anthony Taylor saying, can you on a day do tutorial on how to utilize sim for novice? Yeah, at some point, we're at the end of the baseball season, so probably not for baseball, but for football or probably even more for basketball. But it all also depends on, what site you're using. If we're talking about Ace Mind, I can pull that up because I have access. I'm not subscribed over at like Awesemo or whatever, but I can definitely talk about like how to use the results and stuff. So yeah, we can always get into that stuff. And if you have any questions, drop them in. Feel free. But hello, Anthony, Lone Wolf, Kenny Woodhouse. Good to see you guys. Appreciate you. Yeah, Kershaw retiring. Like I said, last start at home in LA. I assume he'll have one more next week, but I'm not sure where they're playing. But this is his last LA start, so huge spot. A lot of good stuff going around about Kershaw. One of the ones that I caught that I thought was fun that I dropped into the Discord per OptaStats. There have been over 1,000 pitchers in MLB history to make at least 150 career starts. Only one of them was more likely to deliver a scoreless start than he was to suffer a loss. Clayton Kershaw, 101 scoreless starts, 96 losses. That's pretty crazy. Wins, losses, obviously wonky when we're talking about pitching, but when you're contrasting against a scoreless outing, pretty impressive. Anthony's saying, I'm thinking about Ace Mind trying to do NFL and NBA. Yeah, absolutely. We can get into that. It takes a little bit for the setup. So I have stuff like layered into the spreadsheets. Not to take too much time here, but like here, right? This is and I haven't used it as much, and that's why I haven't talked about it as much for baseball. But like this represents like a piece of their template, which you just drop in here every day, and then I have just data pulls here to create the things that you need to upload, but you do need to feed it like the projections every day. You need to feed it ownership, a standard deviation number to be able to get it to work. So just know that you have to have that, that data at your fingertips. A top 5 pitcher of all time? No. A top 5 pitcher of his generation? Yes, definitely. I don't think he's a top 5 all time. He's first ballot, easy lock of a Hall of Famer. But top 5 all time feels a little bit strong. Where did we total out? Just over 3,000 strikeouts. The one loss again, don't really care. 222 wins and 96 losses, a 2.54 ERA. Spectacular. 3.06 career xFIP. Career strikeout rate of 27.1 against a 6.3% walk rate. Spectacular 1.02 career whip. And just nasty up there. So good. Only 37. Not that it's been pretty lately, not that he hasn't been injury prone throughout, and that's been a big factor. And, could that have impacted whether he was definitely locked top 5 all time? Yeah, to a degree. And obviously he's been diminished. So I get the retirement, but it's a shame. You'd like to think there's a couple more years there had things gone differently. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, utterly tremendous. What are his immediate comps on reference? Let me look at this and then we'll actually dive in. You can't ask me questions like that when we're trying to go fast. Oh, come on, Baseball Reference. You're not going to cooperate with me? Just, what is... MVP, 3-time Cy Young, 11-time All-Star, World Series champ, pitching Triple Crown, 5-time ERA title. Where's the yeah, when your similarity scores Pedro Martinez, Max Scherzer, Roy Halladay, I mean that's a solid top 4 plus, with them and plus Clay. And then Charles Bender, Sandy Koufax, Bob Carruthers, Whitey Ford, John Lester's a weird one, Sam Lever, whoever that is, and Adam Wainwright. Yeah, I mean, I think that's almost a direct answer for who he's like on the level with of Pedro and Scherzer, who is pitching today as well, and Halladay and that group. But when you comp well to Sandy Koufax, another quite good Dodger, it's not a bad world to live in. Let's get into today's slate. Yankees looking tremendous again. Check down slightly from the ridiculous tiers that we've seen them at over the last few days, though. A little bit better of a pitcher on the mound. They're at a 4.69 implied total as opposed to being 5+ like we've seen in the last few days. Still looking great. Aaron Judge, the only one above a 10 in the home run model, going up against a pitcher who's just been pitching over his head all season long, but making it work. 16 starts, a 1.43 ERA, but a 3.51 xFIP, 24% strikeouts against 6.2% walk. Doesn't really give up too much in terms of barrel, but there's a little bit of launch there. There's plenty of hard hit. Just a 0.78% home run rate. I don't really buy it. At some point, it's going to go pop. All these guys hit lefties well. Outside of down bottom Austin Wells. Jazzy can be up and down, but Cody Bellinger is excellent against lefties. Paul Goldschmidt is one of the best hitters in baseball this year when he faces left-handed pitching, and just meh against right-handed pitching, which is where his numbers are kind of suffering. Most of the quality that you see here comes against lefties. He's been elite against lefties this year. So there's plenty of upside for the Yanks. I do think Trevor Rogers is loosely playable, but it's just on faith that he can continue defying his talent in the numbers. He's not bad. Don't get me wrong. When he first came back, I was saying, oh, Trevor Rogers, it could be a sneaky spot. Let's get on this one. Didn't expect anything like this as far as what the run limitation results look like. Still reasonably priced at 89. You're really rolling the dice targeting this Yankees lineup, though. Will Warren at 69.79, solid 24% strikeouts. The walks have come down a little bit, 4.44 ERA, a 3.93 xFIP to show the quality underneath the surface. Just gives up too much premium contact, still walking too many overall, and some of the short outings have been a problem. Did go 6-2 starts ago against the Tigers. Last time out, gave up 10 hits and 6 earned runs, so he was out after 5 at Fenway Park. That was a problematic start, but just 5 when things were going well in 2 starts prior to those 2 as well. So I think usually we're going to be looking at a limitation of 5, maybe 5 and change, and very limited opportunities most of the time, unless things are going great, to finish that 6th inning with Will Warren. So it does become problematic on FanDuel at 79, 69 on DraftKings just to chase some strikeout against the Baltimore lineup that has a 25.6% strikeout rate. Kind of interesting over there, at least on the board as an SP2 when a lot of people are going different directions. And this Orioles lineup, in addition to those strikeouts, hasn't exactly been great throughout the season. If you're going to the Yankees, again, Goldie, one of the top options against lefty pitching and very cheap, 34.26, absolute bargain. Should be extremely, extremely popular at those prices. Great pairing with Judge at top. Judge just belongs in lineups. We all know that. Same thing with Giancarlo Stanton. Cody Bellinger at 51.36, not a bad option. 29 homers, 12 steals, a 126 WRC plus. And again, good numbers lefty. Ahmed Rosario, not much of a hitter overall, but good against lefties. Finds more success via batting average on balls in play, but low strikeout, low walk. And this year making a fair amount of solid contact, 44.2% hard hit rate, 6.1% barrel, both up a little bit, 289, 322, 457. And again, most of that success against lefties. Austin Slater, another guy who's made his career out of succeeding against lefties so far. Just 220, 276, 383 overall this year, but very, very cheap. And a cheap door to get into the Yankees lineup if you're just stacking these guys that we don't usually have. Typically, those guys in the middle of the lineup are more expensive. Jazzy at 56.38, a 29.30 season so far. Been ridiculous since joining this Yankees team. 36.27 is very cheap for Anthony Volpe for the counting stats that he puts up, but he is pretty much terrible otherwise. And then Austin Wells, lefty, less than ideal, but a power hitting catcher is always interesting. Has boosted the numbers overall a little bit up to 21 home runs, 215, 272, 437. Obviously lacks appeal. Jackson Holiday at the top of the Orioles lineup has been interesting throughout the season. 17 homers, 17 steals. Feels like he's been stuck on those numbers for a minute. 101 WRC plus, just over the waterline for being above average. Jordan Westberg is a reasonable bat. 15 home runs, a 190 ISO gives you a little interesting power, some decent premium contact numbers. Gunner from the left side is always a priority when you go to this team, especially against a right-handed pitcher. A little bit of upside for power there. In a disappointing season, he's still got plenty of premium contact available, and the price has come down at 45.34. Ryan Mountcastle, just 29.28, has a little pop in that bat, even though it rarely results in home runs. The ISO is typically bad. We saw a bunch of home runs from him going on, 4 or 5 years ago now. It's been lighter since, but the contact has always been high level. So if you catch the right day, you do have a good power bat there. Dylan Beavers, not bad, over 105 plate appearances. We'll see where it goes, but a 193 ISO is interesting. The 370 XWOB is definitely interesting. Jeremiah Jackson, cheap entry point as far as third base. Outfield, 2,900 at shortstop on FanDuel's even better. 283, 323, 461, a 118 WRC plus over his first 161. Mix and match at worst. Sammy Basayo hasn't been good over 95 plate appearances, but has managed to hit 3 home runs and is an elite level hitter as a catcher prospect. Very, very young, probably not fully cooked, but making good contact so far in the tiny sample. Colton Cowser's made great contact all year. It's resulted in 15 homers and 11 stolen bases over 330 chances. Sub Mendoza, a 267 on base. Lack of appeal throughout the slash line, but one of the better power bats on this team, if not the best power bat on this team. Kobe Mayo, a little bit up and down. Bad slash line, 9 home runs and 267 chances is okay as the output goes. 9.3% barrel's the interesting part. This goes Yankees bats, Orioles bats. Will Warren on DraftKings, Trevor Rogers on DraftKings, Will Warren on FanDuel, Trevor Rogers on FanDuel. Pretty sure. Nats, Andrew Alvarez on the mound, just 17.7% strikeouts over his first 3 outings, but a 1.15 ERA, but a 4.47 xFIP, a nearly 10% walk rate, going up against a high-quality Mets team that's drawn a 5+ implied total. Enough said. Plenty of power showing there for the top of the Mets. Brandon Sproat on the mound for New York, 7,800, 9,200, differently priced across sites. Potentially elite young pitcher, 2.25 ERA, 3.51 xFIP, a 21% strikeout rate over his first two. His numbers through the minors were excellent. He had a 22.1% strikeout rate in the minors this season. Over 121 innings, he had a 4.24 ERA and a 4.53 xFIP. Last year, in 116, he had a 3.40 ERA, a 3.48 xFIP, and a 28.3% strikeout rate. Strong talent from the minor leagues. We'll see what it turns into at the major league level, though. Maybe it's not as elite as we would want for strikeouts, but this is a fairly low-end Nationals lineup outside of a couple guys up toward the top. 23.5% strikeout rate seems pretty gettable. So maybe FanDuel actually got carried away by a couple hundred. Maybe the truth is more in like the high eights somewhere, but this DraftKings price is definitely low. He's going to be popular for that, though. So knowing that we're not necessarily talking about a peak strikeout artist here, maybe that does make us shy away and, again, pushes toward like a Will Warren, who does have strikeout potential for a cheaper price. If people are going to this aggressively, Jansen Junk would be in that mix for a much, much cheaper price if he's less popular than Sproat. Nationals bats, that doesn't really throw them into play. I greatly prefer Sproat, even if he's not finding a ton of strikeouts. I like his ability and his chance to keep this team to a fairly low score and not have them go off completely for a ridiculous DFS day. That said, if we're looking for that, James Wood, CJ Abrams are your priorities there. Wood kind of slowed down, 27 home runs, 15 stolen bases. We were at a better pace than that earlier in the year. That said, this is an excellent 655 plate appearances from a young player. Tremendous premium contact numbers all season long. A 125 WRC plus, a 365 xWOBA, 208 ISO. Fantastic all season. CJ Abrams, 17 homers, 31 stolen bases, another strong season out of him. 600 good plate appearances, 109 WRC plus. Hits the ball squarely, but not at elite levels, but low strikeout, low walk. So you get a lot of contact out of him, and he finds good success numbers with it. Josh Bell really turned his season around, at least as far as power goes. He's up to 20 home runs. Very solid premium contact numbers, low strikeout, high walk. There's a lot to like about some of the underlying stuff for Josh Bell. It's an incomplete season if you look at the full thing, but a very solid stretch. The underlying is kind of coming through. The 366 xWOBA is sitting there, and he's still only 3,900, 2,700. Again, if you're looking to target an under-owned team against a pitcher making his third start, it's not a bad stretch of three hitters there. And then you get like Luis Garcia, some Dylan Cruz maybe. Dylan Lyle over the stretch, 40.2% hard hits, another low strikeout, low walk guy, 287, 338, 464. Just doesn't do a ton around the edges for you. You're just getting him on base, a little correlated scoring, but a 121 WRC plus. He's done a lot of run creation. And again, 38.29 is cheap. Garcia's 44.28, 13 homers, 13 steals out of him, but sub 300 on base is concerning. A 91 WRC plus is limiting, but has made good contact and does have a good underlying xWOBA. Dylan Cruz, premium prospect, hasn't really delivered at the major league level yet, but there's talent there. Paul DeYoung delivered quite a while ago at the major league level, and is now just kind of washed. 6 home runs, 4 stolen bases, and 191 chances, mix and match at best. Jorge Alfaro and Jacob Young down the bottom, again, mix and match quality. You do have 14 stolen bases out of Young, but doesn't get on base at even a 300 clip. Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, 2 massive power hitters, 41 and 37 home runs from those two, 265 and 255 ISOs, 156, 141 WRC pluses. Those guys are absolute priorities. Everybody knows that. Francisco Lindor, the guy in this lineup that people seem to love to hate, 5,200, 3,700, a little bit cheap for him. 27 home runs, 30 stolen bases on the year. The ISO still down a little bit at 188, but it's still a fantastic overall season. And for DFS purposes, it's perfect at shortstop. It's exactly what you want. 124 WRC plus and the home run pick of the day at 10.10 in the home run model. Mark Vientos, 3,500, 2,900, 17 homers, a 187 ISO, 100 WRC plus. Always interesting. Very, very cheap. Hits the ball very hard. Nothing about this is dissimilar from what he's done the last couple of years. He's just cheap. It's a good option. Brendan Nimmo at 42, 3,000, 24 home runs, 12 steals, 333 xWOBA under the surface, a 116 WRC plus. Just look at all the stretch of run creation there. Outside of the -2 at the bottom of the lineup in a small sample, that's a 124 WRC plus average over 8 hitters in this lineup. Everybody is the worst guy in that stretch is at league average. That's Mark Vientos. Starlin Marte, good creator of counting stats across all the categories. Mixed bag of a season for him this year. 119 WRC plus, though. 9 homers, 7 stolen bases. Francisco Alvarez has found quality in his limited season. 248 pretty good plate appearances, a 339 on base, making great contact, 9 home runs on the board, a 182 ISO. Brett Beatty also makes very, very good contact, is entirely underrated. Cheap at second or third base. Prefer him at second, but I'll take him at third. 3,800, 2,600. He's got 17 home runs, a 182 ISO in 412 plate appearances, 345 xWOB under the surface. Gets on base at a decent enough clip. That is a good player. And then Jose City in 33 plate appearances has been awful, but he's got more talent than that. Mets bats. Brendan Sproat on DraftKings. Nationals bats. Brendan Sproat on FanDuel. Don't think there's room for Andrew Alvarez. Bo Sox, 3.5 implied total for them. Just approaching 3 implied total for the Rays on the other side. Definitely we're looking at pitching in this one. Mostly Garrett Crochet, again, top of the board, 10-5, 11,000, an elite 31.5% strikeout rate against 5.6% walks. Stuff Plus loves the arsenal. 2.8% home runs, 2.63 ERA, a 2.65 xFIP. You can nitpick that 2/100ths of a point difference if you want to, but that would be insane. 13.7% swinging strike rate. Everything about Garrett Crochet this year has been elite. There's nothing that you could say is bad or even a downside there. He's just fantastic. The depth is there. So fire away with Crochet shares against this Rays team. 26.7% strikeout rate overall for this version of the lineup. The team, the active roster, just a 21.8% strikeout rate against left-handed pitching this year, but there are just a ton of overall strikeouts in this version of this lineup. A guy like Chris Morel, even if he cuts down strikeout as a righty against lefties, still a ridiculous strikeout number overall and just totally vulnerable to a pitcher like Crochet. And that goes for a number of these guys. So love this option. Over here, Drew Rasmussen, 75-84, 21.8% strikeouts, a solid, tidy little strikeout to walk, 2.74 ERA, 3.73 xFIP. Even though this is a run higher, it's still a decent enough xFIP from a very affordable pitcher. Stuff Plus loves the arsenal. Not great at finding the strikes, though. Just a mediocre strikeout rate. Is okay at keeping the ball in the yard, but not elite at it. Gives up a little bit of hard hit, a little bit of exit velo, both of those above our threshold, 3.04% home runs. So you can see the downside with him. Doesn't play up necessarily in this ballpark either. With some of the lefties in this lineup, you can definitely get the ball over the wall here. That said, some of the Red Sox best players are absent, and it's hurt them a little bit lately. I do think you can get to Rasmussen, but he's probably much better deployed as an SP2 on DraftKings than even as a cheap SP1 on the FanDuel slate. If you're going to the Red Sox, Jarren Duran would be a priority. Fairly priced, 15 home runs, 23 stolen bases, solid on base, 113 WRC plus. Trevor Story, another guy who's a priority to me, 25 home runs, 31 stolen bases for that Story this year, a 106 WRC plus. We've gotten that well above average now. Still just a 5.2% walk and a lot of strikeouts, but major source of premium contact basically all year. Alex Bregman hasn't been the same guy as he was at the beginning of the season since he returned from injury, but overall a decent season, 17 home runs, an elite 356 on base, a 124 WRC plus. Every reason in the world to play him at 4,500, 3,400 if you're choosing to attack Drew Rasmussen here. Yoshida, solid source of line drives, 31-27, very cheap in the outfield. Pretty bad over his 165 plate appearances this year, but we've seen him better than that, and there is talent there. That's a very, very low price in the heart of this lineup to get a lefty bat. Romy Gonzalez at 43, 3,000. It's a ball squarely against everybody. Solid numbers, a 119 WRC plus over 310 chances. Nate Eaton, 26, 24, mix and match quality. Solid slash line, a 109 WRC plus. Nathaniel Lowe, an interesting lefty bat with a little bit of thump in it, 3,900, 2,800. He's hit 18 home runs this season. Could definitely get one into the right field stands in this ballpark. Carlos Narvaez has hit the ball solid all season. Same thing with Sedan Rafaela. Up and down as far as results go. Rafaela just an 83 WRC plus now, but filling every category and counting stats again this season. And Narvaez has been kind of consistent, 101 WRC plus, 14 home runs, a 179 ISO. Not bad for a very cheap catcher. The Rays just throwing guys into the grinder here with Crochet on the mound. Don't think it's a good option to take them, even though they're contrarian and so on. If you do that, though, Yandy Diaz, Chris Morel are your top 2 priorities in this version of the lineup, and then it's just pick your poison. So they're probably best deployed, even in that sense, as a small stack, a 2-man, a 3-man, and that's kind of it. Everson Pereira in the top spot has not been anything at the major league level, despite having a little bit of minor league pedigree. Very, very cheap from the right side, but he's only in there because he's right-handed and Chandler Simpson's left-handed. Johnny Diaz is elite against anybody. 24 home runs, a 181 ISO, 297, 361, 479 slash line, a 132 WRC plus. One of two guys, and the other guy's only made 29 plate appearances this year, above average for WRC plus in this lineup. That should tell you most of what you need to know. Chrissy Morel has elite swing speed, one of the guys in this lineup that can catch up to Garrett Crochet nicely, but he's terrible at everything else. 37% strikeout rate, bad slash line, just 11 home runs and 284 chances this year. It's been a bad season for Chris Morel, even in the shortened version. Josh Lowe, another player, having a bad year. Lefty-lefty's not going to help him in this spot. Nick Fortes, cheap, but overall pretty bad. 221 plate appearances, 79 WRC plus, sub 300 on base. There's nothing to like there. Tristan Gray, he's found quality in the show so far this year for a little bit of power. 3 home runs and 67 plate appearances, a 197 ISO. We're talking about a lefty bat. We're also talking about a guy who's 28, 29 years old, quad A type player. So we're not really going in his direction against Garrett Crochet. Richie Palacios, mix and match quality at the absolute best if you're desperate. Carson Seymour, at least right-handed, a little bit of premium contact with the 9.1% barrel over his 75 plate appearances. He's found 4 home runs and a 214 ISO so far. So maybe your third priority guy if you're going to this team, or maybe if you are desperate to stretch it on DK to a 5, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and the cheap catcher. And there's your 5-man, and you're connected across, and it's 3,420, 3,500 a piece. Do not like it. And then Bobby Seymour at the bottom hasn't found quality at all, and I can't imagine lefty-lefty is going to find much against Garrett Crochet. This very much goes Garrett Crochet, Drew Rasmussen, especially on DraftKings, Red Sox bats, and then Rays bats at the very, very bottom. What's up, Beyond the Rabbit Hole? Working on it. Ricky Lee was laughing. Take the bait as far as the Kershaw question. We'll talk more about it on a show where we've got a little bit more time. We're already crashing into 6 o'clock. Blue Jays, 482 and flat total, looking really interesting against Michael Lorenzen, a vulnerable enough pitcher, low strikeout pitcher. He is low walk. He's all right in terms of the 4.29 xFIP. If he's your 5th starter, you're okay. You're not in trouble. But a 4.95 ERA, nearly a 4% home run rate is not exactly the picture of good. And that is a very good low strikeout, elite run creation Blue Jays lineup. Definitely lean Blue Jays bats. Max on the mound, 23.2% strikeout, 6.8% walk over 79 and a third and 15 starts this year. Just a 4.31 ERA, 4.61 xFIP, damaging those numbers for the career numbers overall. 4.95% home run rate isn't helping our case. 12.1% barrel, and he's going against a really low strikeout Royals team that has found some barrels throughout the season. So I don't really love the option with Max. 77.86, gun to my head between these two pitchers. You do lean Max, especially on DK for that price. Really don't like the Lorenzen option given his low strikeout nature against this team. Blue Jays bats. George Springer at 55.38, still very fairly priced for excellent season. 302, 391, 543 at 241 ISO. Welcome back, George Springer. We said that months ago. He's been here. Nathan Lukes at 33.27, 11 home runs on the board, a decent enough 323 on base percentage, 101 WRC plus. The xWOBA isn't exactly special, a little bit below average, doesn't make great contact, but they've been dropping him into this spot between Springer and Vladdy, and he's low strikeout, medium walk rate, and he's found some success there for run creation. Very cheap to just stretch that stack a little bit. Vladdy, obviously a primo option, 23 home runs on the year, just a 184 ISO. The power definitely dipped this year, but everything else has remained spectacular. Low strikeout, extreme high walk, excellent premium contact that doesn't align with the slight dip in power. 53.36, price is down, take advantage. 46.31 for Addison Barger, who's made great contact all season. He's hit 20 home runs. He's got a 212 ISO, excellent lefty bat to throw at a mediocre righty. That's a priority if you're going Blue Jays here. Alejandro Kirk is a priority at 36 on DraftKings. That price has been low all year. 289, 354, 413, a 115 WRC plus out of him. Dalton Varsho has continued to just mash baseballs, 18 home runs in 236 plate appearances, still carrying a 327 ISO. That's still fairly small sample, but a lot of success in that small sample, 16.7% barrel rate. Davis Schneider's got a tremendous barrel rate as well over his 206 chances. He's found 11 home runs and a 221 ISO. These guys could take advantage of Michael Lorenzen here. He doesn't give up too much premium contact, but a lot of that contact turns into home run balls. Some of that is happenstance, but it's a consistent fly ball trajectory, just enough barrel. He's just under the line in barrels, hard hits, and exit velo. So targetable pitcher there. Andres Jimenez and Ernie Clement, you just want one of those guys, and that guy's named Ernie Clement most of the time down the bottom there. You're talking about two just contact-oriented hitters, so you take the better of those two guys at 32-26, and he fills the same positioning on DraftKings, 4 positions on FanDuel, where Jimenez is only a second baseman over there. Loosely playable option on Andres Jimenez, mix and match quality at best. On the Royals side, Carter Jensen in the leadoff role for a cheap price as a catcher. Successful over 31 plate appearances with a pair of home runs on the board so far. Home runs and 10 stolen bases, 290, 377, 501 with a 211 ISO over 492 minor league plate appearances this year. So definitely an interesting enough kid for those cheap prices. Fills out catcher, but you've got Sal in this lineup. So on DraftKings, it is $900 cheaper to go that way. You get a better spot in the lineup hitting ahead of Bobby Witt. I do think you can mix that in if you're building a lot of Royal stacks, but I still think Sal's the bigger priority between the two. Either way on FanDuel, you can put both in your lineup. You've got catcher first base, which doesn't matter on Sal. You've got the kid at catcher only with the util spot. So plenty of options there, but then you squeeze out Vinny or you're getting, 2 of those 3. So not great as far as having the multiple catchers in this lineup, but he's a playable option. He's very cheap. Bobby Witt, 22 homers, 36 stolen bases, a 128 WRC plus. Obviously the picture of excellence at shortstop, very expensive, but worthwhile. Vinny continues to be ludicrously cheap at 41.31 for a guy with 30 home runs, a 205 ISO, and a 113 WRC plus. A ridiculously good slash line. I do not understand why he's so cheap. Take advantage of that. Michael Garcia at 47.31, 16 home runs, 23 steals, a 351 on base, a 121 WRC plus. Tremendous year out of him. Sal, major source of premium contact at the catcher spot. He's super cheap at just 4,000, 3,100 on FanDuel. He's at 29 home runs this year. He's got 215 ISO. Going up against the washed version of Max Scherzer, who's done nothing but give up power all season. I mean, washed is way too strong. He's not washed. He's had some good starts throughout the year, but that's a lot of premium contact and power. That's nearly a 5% home run rate on 12% barrels. Sal Perez is going to be 4,031 against him. Almost made Sal the home run pick of the day. Adam Frazier, Jack Caglianone, Michael Massey, John Rave, 4 lefties to end this lineup. 3 of them are very cheap. Adam Frazier is pretty cheap. All cheap as well on the FanDuel slate. You get multi-position out of most of those guys. Caglianone is interesting, 6 home runs, but just a 126 ISO in his 209 plate appearances. Doesn't really align with the premium contact that he's made, nor does it align with the minor league track record of Jack Caglianone as a top-end power-hitting prospect. So an interesting bat at those very cheap prices. If we're going to this team, you mix him into the outfield. Probably the most interesting guy out of that group at the bottom. Michael Massey, up and down kind of a player, had been making decent contact the last 2 years with those 7+% barrel rates. It's not special, but for a low lineup guy, it was at least interesting to keep him on the board. That's kind of evaporated this year. Now he's just cheap. Frazier's probably the most interesting after Caglianone. Decent slash line this year, but nothing special. And then John Rave, just a mix and match guy. Blue Jays bats, Royals bats, Max Scherzer, mostly on DraftKings. Don't really think Lorenzen's at all necessary here. Padres, White Sox. Dylan Cease, absolute priority, 98-10-2, nearly a 30% strikeout rate. Does come with a lot of danger via the walk, but it's not like this White Sox team is elite at drawing walks, 8.4% on average, just 2 guys in the double digits. There are a couple guys who can find them, so if Cease is way off the mark, then maybe that burns him. 4.59 ERA created by some of that, but a 3.55 xFIP under the surface, a ridiculous elite 15.7% swinging strike rate. What was Crochet? Yeah, 2 points better than Garrett Crochet as far as a swinging strike rate. when he's on, Dylan Cease is among the very best strikeout artists in the game, and he's got a fantastic matchup. The White Sox 3.46 implied total. Cease is a little bit cheaper and rivals Crochet in terms of upside, just a few points lighter in the projection, but definitely more erratic as an option. Davis Martin, just a target for Padres bats, 4.64 implied total for them. Nando Tatis up at the top, 22 home runs, 30 stolen bases, a 369 on base. Maybe short of expectations, but that's an outrageously good season if you just ignore the name. Luis Arias, quality contact hitter, not much more than that. 287, 322, 386. Just first base, second is wrong. Second base eligible on both sites is where you want him. Still don't love the option, though, and hitting second is just weird all season long. 5,337 for Manny, though. 26 home runs, 14 steals, a 339 on base, a 127 WRC+. Definitely can fire away. Those are fair prices at worst. Jackson Merrill's cheap at 42.32 considering the talent. 14 home runs, just a mediocre slash line compared to expectation, but a 364 xWOB under the surface tells us that if we had a full season of health, probably would have gotten around what we expected, a 112 WRC+ too. Ramon Laureano's been tremendous all year, 24 home runs at 238 ISO, fire away with shares. He's still affordable. Gavin Sheets and Ryan O'Hearn are both cheap in the lineup. Those lefties, 38, 4,000, 28, 29. Take advantage of those guys. Solid on base, decent average hitters, decent mid-board type power, both good run creators, positive run creators. And Jake Cronenworth gets on a lot, creates a lot of runs as well. 373 on base out of him, 123 WRC+. The only guy with a non-aggressively good WRC+ is Freddie Furman. And we kind of like him because he can hit for average as a very, very cheap catcher. Puts the bat on ball successfully. 18% strikeout, 5.6% walk. It's been just a mediocre season for him. But we've seen him hit 270, 280. And if you're going to do that from the 9 spot, just as a wraparound, as a dart throw in one lineup as a cheap catcher, that works. We don't need him to be elite at the plate. The White Sox, Chase Meadroth had a little bit of a hit streak going. He's up to 269, 346, 342. That is his skill set, is just base hits, get to first base. Low strikeout, fairly high walk, but not a lot of pop in the bat. Not interesting without a lot of help from his friends. Kyle Teal, an affordable catcher with a 375 on base. One of the better walk options on this team, so definitely a priority if you're choosing to use the White Sox to target Dylan Cease. You definitely want to include the high walk guys, the guys with the strong on base percentages like Kyle Teal. He's also a decent fit as a $3,800 catcher. He's hit 8 home runs, 151 ISO, but a 128 WRC+, very solid xWOBA, decent enough contact. Colson Montgomery has made ridiculous contact so far, 18 home runs and 245 chances, a 282 ISO, but also a 30.6% strikeout rate that I think Dylan Cease is going to toy with a little bit. Miguel Vargas is a mix and match quality player in the middle of the lineup. Mike Tauchman, the other elite guy for walks in this lineup, a 354 on base, 11.6% walks. Absolute priority if you're choosing to go to this team. Edgar Quero, second catcher in this lineup, is not ideal on DraftKings. You can play that on FanDuel, of course, 2,500, 343 on base out of him. Would prioritize him too. 103 WRC+, one of their better options. Curtis Mead, Will Robertson, and our guy Michael A. Taylor hiding down the bottom of the lineup. You can get to Michael A. If we're going after Dylan Cease, we can mix in a little bit of expectation of power as well. 8.9% barrels allowed this season. Hasn't burnt him. Just a little bit of barrel rate on an aggressive fly ball rate there, a fly ball trajectory there. So maybe the type of guy that Michael A. can find some bat on ball against, but Michael A. also strikes out 30+% of the time each of the last 3 seasons. So kind of problematic for that. Probably more of a target for strikeouts for Dylan Cease. Mead has not really found much at the major league level yet, and Will Robertson also has not. This definitely goes Dylan Cease, Padres bats, White Sox bats, but meh, and Davis Martin I wouldn't play. Marlins and the Rangers probably got these lineups by now. We certainly do. So Jansen Junk against this up and down Rangers squad for this ridiculously cheap DraftKings price. He hasn't been good. 4.48 ERA, but a 4.19 xFIP, 98 and a third, 14 starts. A little bit of relief work in there as well, if I'm not mistaken. We'll pull that up in just a moment. But he's very, very cheap. We're expecting maybe not a ton of depth, but 5 innings is in the cards for him here. Last time out, went 6. That was just the other day against the Tigers. 3 earned runs, struck out just 4, allowed a home run, but 6 innings, give up 7 hits. The outing before that, just 4 1/3, 6-run ball against the Nationals, not great. Had been out since the 23rd prior to that one, but went 5 2/3 on the 23rd. against the Blue Jays, held them to 3 runs, held Boston at Fenway Park to 3 runs over 7 innings while striking out 6 in one of his better outings of the season. Peaked at 7 strikeouts earlier in the season against the Twins over 6 innings. But I think 5 is a reasonable expectation. 6 is definitely in the cards. And at 5,500, you can find the upside along the way, even if he gives up a couple of runs. 71 on FanDuel, you're just chasing that quality start expectation against a very, very strong top end of the board that is likely to book the quality starts. So I don't love it as much, but that's very cheap. And if he finds that bonus, that gives you another little bit of juice on top. So I think he's playable on FanDuel. Again, there's nothing special going on here. Outside of maybe you could say that the walk rate is very good, but the strikeout to walk is not because of that super low strikeout rate. And this Rangers team is one that we've targeted a few times throughout the season as being maybe underappreciated for the talent in this lineup. Guys like Jock Peterson against a low strikeout, low end righty definitely could succeed. Jock at a 7.77 in the home run model today. Jake Berger has hit 16 home runs with a 193 ISO and made excellent contact throughout the season. It's a bad season overall. Limited half a season, but the contact is there. You can throw that against a low strikeout guy and have big expectations. Same with Adolis Garcia, who's been in and out of the lineup all season long. 18 home runs, 13 steals. When he appears back off the IL, he surges and then he gets hurt again. That's been the story of his season. 231, 273, 399. But a very strong hitter who for a while there was averaging 30 plus home runs over 5 years. Top of their lineup, Josh Smith is just a mix and match guy. You can fit him in anywhere on FanDuel. He can give you a good game from here and there. Low strikeout and high walk is a good option to throw against a pitcher like Jansen Junk as well from the left side. Alejandro Osuna is cheap, hasn't given you much at the major league level, over 147 chances, but there's a little prospect pedigree there. Jonah Heim, 27-25, 11 home runs on the board, mix and match quality 73, WRC+. Josh Young, better than his numbers have been this season, 14 home runs, a 145 ISO, just a 92 WRC+. Not a lot to like there, but a playable option if you're choosing to target Jansen Junk with Rangers. Cody Freeman, Michael Hellman down the board. Freeman, not great, over 91 plate appearances. Hellman has been the more interesting of the two. He's at 5 home runs. He's carrying a 286 ISO in the small sample. It's not going to last. 10.2% barrels and a 25.4% hard hit don't align at all. But he's been low strikeout, medium walk. He's had some interesting plate appearances so far, some success. So he'd be in play. More interesting probably at second base on FanDuel for the 26. And you grab him, maybe you skip over Josh Smith there and go right into the power stretch there and hope for a little extended wraparound play from him. 43 on DraftKings kind of prices him out of that range. I don't love that as the most expensive player on that team. It's a little silly. But yeah, there's playability here. In terms of spots that might get popular on DraftKings, especially on DraftKings, that puts them into play if people start going to a pitcher like Jansen Junk aggressively. And I think they might. So something to keep in mind there when you're just looking for, it's a bad team, but there are good names in this team that are just having bad seasons. And you can get a lot of upside out of that at probably lower than they ought to be ownership against this pitcher. But I do think Junk's got playability at that 55, less so at the 71 on FanDuel. Tyler Mahle, not going to give you enough innings here. Again, only threw 50-something pitches in his return. Did make 3 rehab starts. Did not go beyond that, though. Struck out 6 in that performance of 13 hitters that he faced in AAA the other day. The Marlins bats 3.68 implied total for the innings. Mahle's in. He's a pretty decent pitcher, 2.34 ERA earlier in the season, but a 4.49 xFIP. If he's going to be limited, maybe we could target some upside with the Marlins as well as like a contrarian option for cheap pricing, but they're only at a 3.68 implied total, and the more appealing bats are kind of high price for that. 47.33 for Jacob Marcy is a little aggressive. We looked at him the other day. These numbers aren't entirely real, but maybe he's got more talent at the major league level than he ever did in the minors. Those are very high prices, and you're paying tax for what he's already done. Agustin Ramirez is interesting, and legitimately so. 21 homers, 12 stolen bases this season, a 191 ISO, 94 WRC+, but a better than that xWOB under the surface. Otto Lopez is a mix and match guy, does fill some counting stats. Liam Liam Hicks, 32-24, just cheap in the heart of the lineup there. 100 WRC plus on the nose, doesn't exactly hit the ball squarely, but doesn't really strike out much, does draw some walks, so maybe an interesting guy to throw at Tyler Mahle if he's just not on form. Eddie Berto makes good contact, so does Troy Johnston in a small sample. Johnston has 3 home runs on the board, just a 140 ISO, but a 111 WRC plus and an interesting xwOBA. And Eddie Berto has hit 9 home runs in 263 chances, 117 WRC plus and a 342 xwOBA. Graham Pauley is also interesting down lineup. 24-21 across sides, very, very cheap. Hits lefty. Somebody to throw into the mix against Tyler Mahle. 4 home runs in 168 chances this year, a 136 ISO. Nothing special about that. A bad xwOBA, an 88 WRC plus, but good numbers throughout the minors. A guy who needs to get the full chance going. And maybe he shows a little bit here to earn that next year. 24-21. I think if you're choosing to attack Tyler Mahle, makes him very interesting as an option from the bottom of the lineup, probably more so than Connor Norby or Eric Wagaman, given the lefty-righty of it. Norby, 6 home runs, 7 stolen bases. He's been all right, 86 WRC plus. Wagaman, just a mix and match talent. I think Rangers bats. Jansen Junk on DraftKings. Jansen Junk on FanDuel is a different next tier down. And then Marlins bats, and I wouldn't play Tyler Mahle at those prices. Don't think you get the depth. Angels and the Rockies, Coors Field. We're only talking about bats in this one. Nolan Schanuel back at the top of the Angels lineup. They're going against Bradley Blaylock, and it's Mitch Farris on the mound for Los Angeles. Monster totals here. We are just firing away with these bats. Rockies lineup looks pretty much like it's been the last few days. Obviously, we're going to get crazy popular on the Angels. Everybody in this lineup has popularity on. Mike Trout was one of the most highly owned players on the entire slate on both sides. Joey Adell's getting popularity. How about Joe Adell? 36 home runs at 259 ISO, 115 WRC plus. Getting a shot in Coors Field today to exploit a 17.5% barrel rate. Strikes out a lot, but that's not going to be a problem against Bradley Blaylock, who comes in with a sub 10% strikeout rate over 50 innings. Dude is literally a batting tee out there. Not literally. Figuratively, a batting tee out there. Schanuel at 35-34, an interesting table setter up top, 355 on base, 107 WRC plus, is a lead into Mike Trout. At the very least, he does help you offset price. Even if he gets popular on DraftKings, that's helpful. So he'll earn that popularity and would still be a priority. Low strikeout, very high walk. Interesting option in this ballpark. Joel Moncada at 44-34, 12 home runs at 222 ISO over 272 chances, a 122 WRC plus. It's been probably one of the better stretches of nearly 300 plate appearances we've seen his entire career. Taylor Ward at 48, Joey Adell at 49. Both guys going to be popular. Adell is a little bit cheaper than Ward on the FanDuel slate. I'm not entirely sure that's correct. 113 WRC plus versus 115. Better xwOBA for Joe Adell at 383. That's ridiculous. But both guys going to be very popular, going to be necessary in this lineup. Both guys above the magic number for home run power. So is Logan O'Hoppe. So is Mike Trout. Christian Moore at 39, 3,000. Pretty bad 149 plate appearances. Aggressively promoted to the show. Probably needs a little bit more seasoning, but a mix and match quality and helped by the ballpark. Also probably helped by the fact that people won't use him as much as everybody else in this lineup. So you get a little offset in price, and those guys do connect. So you get him on the day that he succeeds here, that's going to be a difference maker. He'll probably gain a little bit of popularity just from the float of the lineup, but he'll be lower owned than some of the other guys in there. Denzer Guzman and Bryce Teodosio, those same things apply, but even lower end options, I think, than Christian Moore, who is regarded as a high-end hitting prospect. On the Rockies side, Tyler Freeman, Mickey Moniak, Hunter Goodman, interesting options up top. Freeman's a good table setter with a 354 on base. That said, a disappointing 90 WRC plus against that with all his ability to reach first base. You'd think that would be a little bit higher, especially with the bumps from Coors Field in half their games. Moniak's been interesting all year. 24 home runs, very solid source of premium contact at 258 ISO, 114 WRC plus, plays up very, very nicely for cheap pricing on DraftKings at that 4,200. 36 on FanDuel is not unfair. 52-37. You could argue that Hunter Goodman, where you have to play catcher, is a little bit cheap. 30 home runs on the season at 246 ISO. Blaine Crim has been interesting. 3 home runs in 37 chances so far. 294 ISO. A little bit of prospect pedigree there. Brent Doyle at 38-33. 14 homers, 16 steals from a former 2020 guy. Remains interesting given how he hits the ball. 11.1% barrel, 44.3% hard hit. Zico Tovar, 8 home runs on the board this year. Just a 146 ISO. Strikeouts are going back up kind of problematically. The home run total hasn't been nearly as good as it was last year. He's a playable mix and match guy, but at Coors Field, he's only 4,000, 3,300 on FanDuel. That's a playable piece. So is Brenton Doyle. So is Blaine Crim, given those cheap prices. Again, these guys are pushing nearly a 6 total as well. They're going to be less popular than the Angels are. They're going up against a nothing pitcher as well. It's an interesting spot for Rockies bats. Kyle Farmer, Kyle Kairos, Ryan Ritter down the bottom of the lineup. There's a little bit of prospect pedigree down there. You can mix and match your way through those guys. I don't think you want more than one of those guys. Kyle Farmer, we've gotten 8 home runs out of. We got more out of a couple of years ago, just as a little hiding spot down the bottom of a lineup with positional flex. But that's all he really is. The other two are the potential prospects. Kairos a little more highly regarded. Neither guy's been particularly good in the show so far, but mix and match quality across positions for cheap pricing for Coors Field. Again, these guys are part of a lineup that has a nearly 6 total, and people aren't going to go there as much. Angels bats, Rockies bats, both should be played, but you can look at them. You could flip that. Again, given how high end this total is, even with this bad team, because they're going to be lower owned, you could easily say Rockies above the Angels there as far as just which is the better DFS option. Which seems more likely to go out and score more runs? It's the Angels. More likely to hit home runs? The Angels. 6 o'clock. I knew we weren't going to make it for an hour, but we're doing good. We're making good pace. Parker Messick, 83.97 has been interesting. 18.3% strikeouts, 3.3% walks, and the elite walk rate so far. Strikeout rate needs to come up, but I expect it will. 9.5% swinging strike rate on the season, a 1.84 ERA, a 3.37 xFIP, a lot of prospect pedigree, and was just better for strikeouts throughout. Keeping the ball in the yard so far, just a 0.83% home run rate, inducing weak and medium contact in the 29 and a third innings, the 5 starts, 8.2 degree average launches, pretty special. That's an interesting option at those prices to throw against a mediocre Twins lineup that comes in at a 3.76 implied total. Pablo Lopez on the other side, 9,000, 24.1% strikeouts, a 2.64 ERA, a 3.85 xFIP. There's obviously some difference there, but that is still an effective enough xFIP, and we know that Pablo is at worst that good and probably quite a bit better. In his 2 starts since his return, first one went 6 innings against KC, 2 runs, 4 strikeouts, a walk, gave up a home run in that, 6 hits. Second start was against the Diamondbacks, 2 unearned runs on 4 hits, struck out 6, walked 3. Looks like the pitch count got away from him a little bit, but an effective outing there. Comes in at 9,095, not exactly perfectly priced, but this has been a gettable Guardians team lately, even with their remaining in contention and being interesting. For DFS purposes, there's definitely quality targets in there. So I think Lopez is playable, but not a priority, and maybe checks in slightly lower ceiling than some of the other guys up at aggressively high prices up near the top of the board. Guardians bats against Pablo in play as one of the lower end, but maybe frisky, under-owned, low-quality contrarian teams on the board. If you're doing that, Jose Ramirez is an absolute priority. Star-caliber pricing, but a star-caliber player. 131 WRC+. Kyle Manzardo would be priority number 2. 26 home runs at 228 ISO on the season. Fairly priced at 46.29. And then you're mixing and matching your way through the Steven Kwanziano Ramirez's of the world at different prices. Kwan's a good table setter. 332 on base. Has 10 home runs, 20 stolen bases. Just a 99 WRC+, though. Kind of like Luis Arias, just struggling for finding that overall quality as a run creator, given what the skill set looks like. Ana Martinez, 27 on both sides, has 11 home runs in 455 plate appearances. Not exactly high quality, medium strikeout, low walk. Not exactly the mix that we want. Doesn't make great contact. Just okay. Bo Naylor, a lot of power from the left side, but it's only resulted in 12 home runs, a 173 ISO, 9.2% barrels are up slightly over the last couple of years. Hard hit is slightly down. A lot of strikeouts out of Bo, but he also draws a lot of walks. Just okay, but he's very, very cheap at 2,800 where you need catchers. Gilbert Arias makes good contact, always has 11 home runs on the board, a 144 ISO, and 432 plate appearances. Doesn't match the 11.8% barrel, the 43.5% hard hit. George Valera, very cheap, dead min price on DK. 24 pretty bad plate appearances so far. Valera, 24, about to be 25, 7 home runs and 170 plate appearances in the minors. A solid slash line and a 232 ISO, though. 143 WRC plus, and actually that's a decent total for 170 plate appearances. 17 AAA home runs last year. Not completely uninteresting for a very cheap price if you're choosing to go to this team. CJ Kafis, top-end prospect for this team. 4 home runs and 118 plate appearances with a 210 ISO so far. At worst, a mix-and-match guy for a cheap price. And then Brian Rocchio, mostly here for defense. Byron Buxton for 58 for 41. 31 home runs, 24 stolen bases. Superstar caliber season. Just wish he had had a few more plate appearances along the way, but we got 500 plus out of him. Austin Martin, Luke Keeschel, strong options in the 2-3 spots if we're going after Parker Messick here. Right-handed bats up at the top of the lineup for cheap prices is kind of the way to go. Low strikeout, high walk so far out of Austin Martin. Solid slash line. Just 1 home run, but 9 stolen bases, a 125 WRC plus in the small sample. Keishel's been excellent with a 311, 393, 449 slash line, and 138 WRC plus. We'll see where the power output goes. He hasn't made great contact, but he's been very low strikeout, high walk, really interesting player. Fairly priced at 48.34 at second base. A little bit of tax maybe on both sites, but not problematically so, and everybody else in this lineup is affordable. Brooks Lee, 3,200, 15 home runs, just a mediocre player, 85 WRC plus, a 298 XWOB was really concerning. Royce Lewis is better than his numbers have been this year, 12 home runs, 11 steals, and 86 WRC plus. Cody Clemens has a lot of power, a lot of premium contact, 19 home runs and 351 plate appearances at 236 ISO. Just ignore the rest of that slash line. Carson McCusker has a ton of power. We saw him briefly earlier in the year, and he barely made any contact at all, 42.9% strikeouts, and did not draw a walk. 14 plate appearances so far, kind of an unfair sample size, but a minor league masher. Johnny Pereda and James Outman down the bottom of the lineup. Outman we like from the left side, premium contact, successful season 2 years ago, has been kind of lost since. A lot of missed time with injuries, just 121 plate appearances, 5 home runs and a 202 ISO in that stretch, though. Interesting as a lefty to throw into the mix for a very cheap price, but lefty-lefty, not ideal for him. I guess it's Pablo, Parker, Twins bats, Guardians bats. Everything, it's all 4 things are playable, but all 4 things are also kind of Definitely don't like the Messick price on FanDuel, by the way. I should have split that. Messick on DraftKings is where the appeal is. 2 tremendous pitchers in this one. Again, this is a stretch that we hit on the board where we've got all those teams below 4 implied runs. It's kind of interesting there. Wu, 10,000, 10-8, just a rock-solid source of 6.6 plus innings, 27% strikeouts, a 3.02 ERA, a 3.38 xFIP, sub 5% walks to go with those numbers. Utterly elite up there. Just tremendous season out of him. Tough opponent. The Astros are low strikeout, 20.7%, but they're lacking a Jordan Alvarez again. You get a somewhat compromised version of this lineup, but there's a lot of talent there. Not the easiest target for him, but plenty of ceiling on the board for Brian Wu. On the other side, 9.5, 10.4 by comparison, fairly priced Hunter Brown. He's going up against a tough Mariners team, but there's a little bit of strikeout in that lineup for him. He's been fantastic all year, too. 2.27 ERA, a 3.23 xFIP, 1.0 whip on the nose, 11% swinging strikes, 28.2% strikeouts against 7.8% walks. Doesn't give up anything in terms of premium contact, 31.4% hard hit, 86 miles an hour of exit velo. Fantastic as far as keeping the ball in the yard, inducing weak and medium contact. So a limiting impact on these Mariners. The only guy above the magic number is you know who. Everybody else kind of checked down to half that. Eugenio pushing the magic number, but otherwise very limiting. On the Astros side, same deal. Not a lot of power showing. Definitely prefer pitching here, but if we're leaning into the lineups, you do have a lot of talent in this game to work with. So this one is a Four corners game where everything is more appealing than that last one, but we lean into the pitching because I think we're in a situation where these good pitchers will probably beat these good hitters. That does put the lineups on the board, though, if people don't go to them all that much, just for low-owned contrarian DFS purposes, as we talk about a lot. When we can get to a good team for those reasons, even against a good pitcher, there's a good argument to be made for it. Can I cram another good into that sentence? Randy Arozarena, 4,800, 3,300. Speaking of good, 27 home runs, 28 steals, a 123 WRC plus, slipped below a 200 ISO, but still a masher up at the plate. 50.5% hard hits on the season. Fantastic way to start out any stack. Cal Raleigh is very, very expensive, but well worth it. 56 home runs, 14 stolen bases, the best season in catcher history. Julio Rodriguez at 53, 4,000 now, up to 30 home runs, 27 steals. Turned it into a fantastic season at 206 ISO, 125 WRC plus. Just seeing it over and over again with Julio as far as that ability to just really fire in the second half. Josh Naylor, 45-34, fairly priced, 19 homers, 27 stolen bases, a 122 WRC plus. Jorge Polanco at 4,000 at 2,900 with second and third base eligibility on FanDuel. What's not to like about that? 24 home runs at 226 ISO this year, 15% strikeouts. He's cut strikeout rate basically in half year over year, down 10 points from 2 years ago, making great contact all season. Eugenio Suarez at 41-34 seems really cheap on DraftKings. I know that the frequency of extreme output has maybe dipped a little bit since joining Seattle. But we're still talking about a guy who regularly hits home runs, 46 on the season, a 297 ISO. He's down to 4,100 now. 34 on FanDuel, kind of holding strong. Dominic Canzone had that monster day the other day, 10 home runs on the board, a 184 ISO, coming with excellent numbers for premium contact. We've talked about Canzone whenever he's been in the lineup this season. 240 fantastic plate appearances so far, 141 WRC plus, a 382 xWOBA. Good player. Victor Robles is an interesting option. Steals bases, if nothing else, but has a little pop in that bat. 12, 15 home run type power over a full season. And JP Crawford's interesting from the 9 spot because he gets on base. So you just wrap him back around to the top spot. 3,500, 2,700, very cheap for a quality shortstop. It's just a really tough pitcher on the mound. It's going to be the same thing going the other way. Jeremy Pena, season of his life at 305, 364, 474. Creating runs 34% better than average. Carlos Correa never stopped hitting the ball hard. 45.9% hard hit rate on the season. Good on base, up to a 106 WRC plus. Seems to like being back in Houston. 37.28 is very cheap for a player of that quality hitting second in a good lineup. It's just good pitcher on the mound. Isaac Paredes back. Houston ballpark benefits him as far as the home run hitting. 19 on the season in 409 plate appearances, a 211 ISO. It's just Brian Wu can get got for home runs, but I'm not leaning toward the Paredes option all that strongly. He is low strikeout, high walk, one of the more appealing players in this lineup, 3,231, 9.17 in the home run model as well to lead the team. So, yeah, among the Astros, we could lean into Paredes a little bit. You've got the positional conflict there with Carlos Correa. Not ideal, but I just greatly prefer Wu in the grand scheme of things here. Jose Altuve's gotten cheap at 39, 3,000. He's got 26 home runs, 9 steals, a 111 WRC plus. Not quite sure why he's so cheap. Zach Gohl at 2,200 across sites. Pretty good 21 plate appearances so far. Mix and match quality from the left side. Jainer Diaz disappointed us throughout the season, but it's come together okay. 19 home runs overall, just a 161 ISO, but a 342 xWOB under the surface. Had we had more time, this would have continued to round into form. Barrels and hard hits are, around where we expected. Barrels are actually up. Hard hits a little down. Strikeouts and walks are about what we expected as well. Difficult to argue with. He's pretty low cost. Christian Walker at 35-31, 23 home runs, a 169 ISO. Hit a little stretch where he was finding the output for power again. He's had consistently good premium contact numbers basically all season. Just hasn't found the results as consistently as in the past. But a dangerous bat to get to down lineup if things aren't going right for Brian Wu. The other thing the Mariners have going for him is a strong bullpen, by the way. Jesus Sanchez, 34-26, 13 homers, 12 steals, making good contact all season long, typical of him. It's exactly where he belongs as far as those contact numbers. Definitely interesting. The strikeout numbers coming down is appealing. Definitely a bat that I want to get to if I'm going to Astros against Brian Wu. I'm just not going to do that very often. Somebody keep in mind going into next year, though. I'm not sure what his contract is. Not sure if he'll be in Houston, but if he is, that's an interesting bat. Jake Myers at 33-27, mix and match quality guys, giving you a little bit more than that throughout the season. Playable if you're going to the Astros, but not a reason to go to the Astros. This goes Brian Wu, Hunter Brown, Mariners bats, Astros bats. Jesus, still 3 games to go. Miz is an interesting dart at 8,000 at 8,800. 33% strikeouts is difficult to not have a little appeal, but up to a 4.35 ERA now. 3.41 xFIP shows the quality under the surface. He's obviously extremely, extremely talented out there. They were checking down the innings somewhat, and that's pushed the ERA a little bit, trying to preserve that arm. And I think now they're probably trying to stretch it back out, considering that we saw 6 2 starts ago, was limited in his more recent outing. Went just 5 in that one, but gave up 4 runs along the way. Gave up 2 home runs in that stretch. That was to these same Cardinals. So if we're looking at 6, the 8,000 is a reasonably fair price to just target a lower owned option with elite strikeout potential. 88 on FanDuel doesn't feel as good because I have no guarantees of that 6th inning. The Cardinals on the other side, Sonny Gray, 87, 9,000, pretty fair for a guy with a 26.8% strikeout against just 5.2% walk, 4.43 ERA, and a 3.12 xFIP. The xFIP is spectacular. Swinging strikes are still there. CSW is still there. Sonny Gray, not a bad season at all under the surface. A little bit of premium contact allowed, but it hasn't really cost him much. He's just going up against a really good Brewers squad. 8,700 is generous on DraftKings, though. That's worth finding out. 9,000 on FanDuel, easily playable, with upside, with ceiling. No reason to expect that he couldn't beat this Brewers team. Sal Frelick at the top of their lineup at 42-32, 362 on base percentage this year. Steals bases, hitting for a little bit more power this season with 11 home runs on the board, a 120 WRC plus. Very interesting player. Jackson Chourio at 48 at 36, 20 home runs, 18 steals. Solid season, missed a little bit of time. Maybe not flying as high as we thought he would, but that's very strong second season out of this player. Christian Yelich at 5,000 at 3,700 has 29 home runs, 16 stolen bases, up to 100 ribbies on the season. If you care about runs batted in, which we don't, but it's there. 199 ISO, 348 XWOB. What's not to like about Christian Yelich? William Contreras, affordable at the catcher spot. He's hit the ball squarely all season long with a 48.5% hard hit rate, 17 home runs, just a 142 ISO, but better than that under the surface. Bryce Turangs found a bunch of barrels out of nowhere this season. 18 home runs, 24 stolen bases for him, a 359 on base percentage. This team's spectacular at manufacturing runs, getting on base, wreaking havoc out there. It's another lineup with 9 guys in it, or 8 guys in it rather, that are above average VWRC plus. Only Joey Ortiz down the bottom, everyday player for this team, basically drags things down and has all season long. Isaac Collins is cheap at 4,000, 2,800. He gets on at a 364 clip, creates runs 22% better than average this year. Jake Bauers hits home runs and steals bases, 7 of each on the season and 196 chances, 13.5% barrels, 45.9% hard hits. Don't sleep on Jake Bauers late in this lineup at 33 at 28, especially given that outfield eligibility on FanDuel, but they don't have a competing first base option on DraftKings, so take advantage. And then Caleb Durbin's been interesting, 341 on base, creating runs 11% better than average all year. Cards are just squarely in the middle of the board, especially for the innings that Miz is going to be out there. You would expect him to dominate. But that said, they will throw 4 low strikeout options at him from the top of the lineup, which could give him fits early on if he's not getting them. Brendan Donovan at 35-28, mix and match quality. Solid season out of him, but nothing special, not a priority or a reason to go to cards here. 42-33 for Ivan Herrera. He's got good power upside, 171 ISO, but a 372 xWOB under the surface, a 10.6% barrel, 47.3% hard hit, 132 WRC plus, a very strong emergent season from Herrera. Alec Burleson, just another outfielder overall, first base eligible on both sides, 18 home runs, a 176 ISO. I don't love it. I'd rather have it in the outfield. Nolan Arenado kind of lost this season, and we're never going to see him again. 81 WRC plus, 129 ISO. I mean, we might see him, but not the old version of him ever again. 33-27 is at least cheap. What he really is now is a low strikeout, maybe put the bat on the ball and find success via BABIP kind of a guy, and that's not what you want. Lars Nootbaar at 34-28, 13 home runs on the board and 97 WRC plus. Thomas Igisi, Pedro Pajes, Victor Scott, all problematic options going down the board. Scott at least gives you a little bit of stolen base upside. And then the extremely disappointing Jordan Walker still has the strong attribute of his ridiculously good premium contact. But that comes against 33.2% strikeouts that Mizuraki is probably salivating over. This goes Sonny Gray, Mizuraki on DraftKings. Brewers bats. Mizuraki on FanDuel. Cardinals bats. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as we get into these last 2 games. By the way, I forgot to mention it. Football show, definitely sometime tomorrow. Same drill as last weekend. Expect it somewhere between noon and 2 as a start time. Just depends on how much I can get done tonight with the article and how much sleep I need and so on and so forth. But we will have a main slate show tomorrow afternoon. So come hang out for that or catch it on the rewind. We did 3 hours last week. I would expect probably pretty similar this week. So prepare, schedule, plan accordingly. Harrison Bader at the top of the Phillies. Lineup's been excellent for these Phillies. 16 homers, 11 steals, 127 WRC plus. Best season of his life. Still very affordable. You're throwing him against Ryan Nelson. Same deal with all these Phillies. I do think they're playable given that 4.65 implied total. An appealing ballpark here in the desert. 4.96 implied total on the other side for the D-backs puts them a little higher priority than the Phils. But offense on both sides of this one is in play. The Phillies I do have a healthy respect for Ryan Nelson. I'm not disinterested in him at 7,200 on the DraftKings slate. 3.34 ERA on the season, a 4.07 xFIP under the surface is the real number, 21.3% strikeout, 6.8% walks. He's just okay, but he's put up a strong stretch. He's been good at limiting home runs on the season. Comes with a medium launch angle, though, a lot of hard hit, a lot of exit velo, so a little bit of good fortune mixed in there for Ryan Nelson. And a bat like Kyle Schwarber, a bat like Bryce Harper could change that in an awful hurry. So Nelson does come with an asterisk, a little bit of caution, but that $7,200 price, he has been making that work throughout the season, and he is talented. You want no part of the Taijuan Walker-Buehler combination. So Schwarb, 6,000, 4,500 behind Bader. That's a good combination up top because Bader's going to get on, set the table. He's got a little individual upside as well. Schwarb's is one of the best power hitters and the best 3 true outcomes hitters in all of baseball. 370 on base, 53 home runs, 106 runs, 128 RBIs. He's even stolen 10 bases. Just fantastic option for DFS and real life baseball. 55.38 is reasonable for Bryce Harper and all the upside. He comes with 27 homers, 12 steals, a 134 WRC plus. Don't overthink it. JT Realmuto is cheap for a catcher that comes with 9% barrels and 45.4% hard hits. I know the results have been mixed this season. 97 WRC plus, obviously a couple points below average. But if I'm just targeting this against a pitcher who has given up a fair amount of hard hit and exit velocity, that puts JT Realmuto very much on the board. Brandon Marsh has had a strong season, pulling together on base and a little bit of power, a little bit of premium contact. 11 home runs, a 281, 342, 449 slash line over just under 400 plate appearances, 118 WRC plus. Interesting lefty bat throw at Ryan Nelson in the outfield for a cheap price. Otto Kemp's a mix and match infielder, 6 home runs, not a lot of quality, 96 WRC plus. Max Kepler's super interesting though, 17 home runs, 457 plate appearances, just a 173 ISO. Doesn't exactly align with the 11.6% barrel, 45.1% hard hit, or what we've seen from Max Kepler in previous seasons. So we know there's lurking lefty power there for a very cheap price. Bryson Stott, solid contributions in the on base and stolen bases department. A little bit of power as well, 12 home runs, but it's more situational power. Low strikeout, high walk, interesting enough player, 100 WRC plus. Weston Wilson just kind of filling in at the Mendoza line, 276 on base. On the Diamondback side, again, the more appealing team here, but also the more expensive. Going up against just a nothing pitching combination, though. Araldo Perdomo at 49.39 has 19 homers, 26 steals in a star-making season, a 391 on base, a 138 WRC plus. Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll came into the season as stars and just cemented those reputations. 25 homers, 30 homers, monster premium contact numbers, 139 WRC pluses match one another, 393 and 384 xWOBAs under the surface. Tell us that they could be even better than they are. Gabriel Moreno, pretty solid in terms of premium contact for a $3,900 catcher. DraftKings has everybody cheap today. 9 home runs in 272 plate appearances to go with a 285, 349, 451 slash line, a 121 WRC plus. Those are tremendous numbers. Strikes out under 17% of the time, walks nearly 9% of the time. Gabriel Moreno is just good. Blaze Alexander might just be good too. 7 home runs, loads of premium contact so far. A 109 WRC plus. Needs to push the ISO given the premium contact numbers. I suspect he can. Eligibility at second base and third base on DraftKings, 4 positions on FanDuel. Adrian Del Castillo is a second catcher who's hit the ball squarely in his 116 plate appearances. Hasn't found a ton of success, but the 48.5% hard hit rate is interesting. 37.9% strikeout is problematic, but not necessarily against this combination of pitchers. So that's where you can take advantage of a guy like Del Castillo that people will go away from. But you do prefer Gabriel Moreno most of the time. Alec Thomas, Tim Tawa, and Jake McCarthy down lineup. Everybody down there is a mix and match option at the absolute best. Diamondbacks bats, Phillies bats. Ryan Nelson, don't play Phillies pitching. Last game up, then we punch out and update lineups, and we're going to do that by 6:30, and it is 6:24 now. So let's talk fast about Robbie Ray and Clay Kershaw. Robbie Ray, total roller coaster. We've been talking about it throughout the season. We were getting away with him for a while. He was getting away with it for a while. Gotten burnt over this last stretch. Maybe he's tiring, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. 3.50 ERA, but a 4.27 xFIP, 24.6% strikeout. Comes with a nearly 10% walk rate. Does still find the swinging strikes, but just doesn't throw enough strikes in general, puts too many guys on base, and has always given up premium contact and power. It hasn't burnt him in terms of the home runs, but look where the exit velocity, the hard hits, the launch angle, the barrels are. That's part of the bad when it comes to bad Robbie Ray, even if he's not giving up home runs. So it's just a targetable spot for the Dodgers with 4.85 implied total. Clay Kershaw at 7,800. You like to believe in the nice, this nice story of the last start here for the Dodgers fans. 3.53 ERA, 4.25 xFIP. Hasn't been a problematic season. Just hasn't been, Clay Kershaw, vintage Clay Kershaw. 17% strikeouts, a 7.2% walk, just 4.1% barrels allowed. Lots to like about that. Excellent at limiting home runs to just 1.67. Can still break off that curveball. He's only 7,000. It's a gettable Giants lineup. There's a lot of righties that'll be in it. Couple of good lefties as well, but a 3.75 implied total. I think we can go to Clay at the cheap pricing. I think that takes care of a lot of concerns here. 6 innings, if things are going well, probably what we're going to get, and that's enough. So I think he's on the board, but not a priority. If you feel like throwing him into a lineup, you can definitely go for it. Giants bats against, hopefully they don't play spoiler, but you could probably consider some of them too against the lefty. Elliot Ramos is interesting as a righty bat from the top. He's got a decent 17 home run total, but cratered to a 133 ISO. A lot of the numbers have come down, clinging to a 106 WRC plus. He's going to hang on for an above average season, but the first half was better than the second half. Kid's still good though, and he's cheap now. Rafi Devers is Rafi Devers, no questions asked. 31 home runs at 216 ISO, but against Clay Kershaw, there's a little diminishment. Willie Adames from the right side, only 41.35, differently priced across sides. DraftKings has it wrong at that cheap price. 28 homers, 11 stolen bases, a 194 ISO. FanDuel got it right. Matty Chapman's also very cheap on DraftKings at 4,000. 3,200 on FanDuel is a little more expensive. 21 home runs, a 206 ISO, remains a terrific swing with a lot of power in it from the right side. That's an excellent option if you're choosing to target Clay Kershaw here. Wilmer Flores, 3,800, 2,700. A lot of success throughout his career against lefties, but I would limit my expectations against Kershaw. 16 home runs on the season. He's playable. He's affordable. Casey Schmidt, mix and match quality there. 11 home runs, a 162 ISO. Adar Encarnacion, one of the more interesting bats if you're going to this team, if he's in the lineup, which against the lefty he probably will be. 32-22. The 22 on FanDuel is especially interesting. 2 home runs in 44 plate appearances. Has made good contact over that stretch. Had an interesting cup of coffee last year with 5 home runs in 119 plate appearances, 177 ISO, and a 58.8% hard hit rate with 15% barrels over 100 plus plate appearances. There's power there from the right side. Also a lot of strikeout, no walks so far in 44 plate appearances, 4.2% over those 100 plus last year. Young-Hoo Lee, Patty Bailey, mix and match options down lineup between the two. You want Young-Hoo Lee, but lefty is not going to help him out. On the Dodgers side, Shohei Ohtani, monster number in the home run model. I believe that's slate leading, double the magic number against Robbie Ray. Lefty's not going to hurt Ohtani in this matchup. 51 home runs, 19 stolen bases. He's just ridiculous. He's very expensive, but he's Shohei Ohtani. Mookie Betts back up to 5,000 on DraftKings, 37 on FanDuel. He's at 260, 328, 409. Pulling the numbers together, 340 xWOBA shows the quality is up above average, 105 WRC plus after a solid month. Teoscar Hernandez against the lefty who gives up power is very appealing from the right side. 24 homers for him at 206 ISO. Freddie Freeman, doesn't matter, lefty for him. Excellent season from him. 21 home runs, 295, 365, 495 at 200 ISO, 137 WRC plus. Then we hit the bottom of the lineup. Tommy Edman, Miguel Rojas, Enrique Hernandez, and Dalton Rushing, especially Rushing lefty. All mix and match options at best. Rushing striking out nearly 40% of the time so far. Could be a target for Robbie Ray. Between all those guys, I skipped over Andy Pias because he's actually good. All the rest of those guys are at best average, which is Miguel Rojas. Everybody else kind of sucks. Dalton Rushing just needs more seasoning. He's a prospect. But Pias is interesting. 25 homers, 14 stolen bases, a solid right-handed bat with a 187 ISO on the bottom end of the lineup for only 4,000. 3,100. He's no secret down there. 9.40 in the home run model today. Maybe people just get lost up here and then dip into the cheap options because they're higher up in the lineup, and it frees up some Pajas shares. He is easily the most interesting hitter down there. This game goes Dodgers bats, Clay Kershaw, Robbie Ray, Giants bats. And that is your slate. 629. Told you we'd get out by 6:30. There's your pitching board one last time, gang. I'm not going to go through it again, but suffice to say, you've got excellent options in the aces up there. You've got a lot of playability through some of those guys in the middle, and then we hit the skids pretty hard. I don't like Rodgers at those prices. That's just okay. It's appealing on DraftKings, but not on FanDuel. That's rough price-wise. This is going to be popular for that DraftKings price. Less so there, and then not enough innings, and then below Molly, everything is bad. So you want to be living up in this territory from like Jansen Junk up. But you've got a lot of workable options through there, especially like some of these guys are quite interesting at the cheap DraftKings prices and probably not going to be quite as popular, back and forth. So definitely interesting slate. Good luck out there. Somebody can win something tonight. Share those results when you do at rotoscouts on Twitter or in the free premium Discord. I'm back tomorrow. Stay tuned for announcement of the show, or not an announcement or anything, but keep an eye out for when the showtime pops sometime between noon and 2 to talk about the football main slate. In the meantime, I'm going to be writing for the next 14 hours or so about that football main slate game by game. Get up to speed on all of that stuff. I found out what the issue on the air yard share was yesterday. If you were here for the football show, I forgot that we have to upload. We have to click, I want week 1 and week 2. And then next week we'll have to add week 3. You have to add each week. So I uploaded just the 1 week stats for air yards yesterday. And that was why that whoever's it was air yard share was showing wrong in that one statistical column. But anyway, that is for another time. Let me go update projections. You guys go get them tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. Later.